now listening to a Purple Crayon Productions broadcast.
Alright folks, welcome back to Solved. Today we're going to be talking about Project Stargate. Although it's not really a conspiracy because no one knew it happened, it's still an insane project that the CIA worked on for decades. So what is Project Stargate? It's a project that the CIA worked on from 1972 until 1995, in which they primarily researched what they called remote viewing. It is more or less research into psychic abilities that the US would have been able to utilize against the Soviet Union. The reason the US even considered researching psychic abilities was because a 1970 report said the Soviets were doing psychotronic research and had produced results. It very much falls in line with the rhetoric that, well, the Soviets are doing it, so we got to do it so we can stay ahead of them. It is actually unclear if the Soviets were researching psychic things or if they had produced results at all. It's just the report generated enough suspicion that the US felt that they needed to also do it. In 1972, physicist Russell Targ and Harold Puthoff started research into psychics at the Stanford Research Institute. They apparently had success with a man named Uri Geller, which gained some interest from the U.S. Department of Defense. They sent a psychology expert to evaluate Geller, and he was determined to be a complete and total fraud. Targ and Puthoff lost their funding due to this and had to search for private funding as a result. Geller has since gone on to become a TV personality. One of these projects' claimed success was the location of a Soviet spy plane in 1976. After this, in 1977, the U.S. Army began research in remote viewing at Fort Meade, Maryland. Not much information is available about what happened in the 1980s and 1990s. The project changed hands many times before eventually landing in the hands of the CIA. In 1995, the CIA did a review of the research and determined it to be a waste of money as the project was $20 million. The CIA also had 3 full-time psychics on hand who were being paid a lot of money. It also had produced no conclusive results as much of the scientific method was not properly executed and many extraneous factors were present and therefore could not conclude psychic abilities. The CIA had reason to believe some researchers had changed reports, thus nulling any evidence presented in those reports. The fun thing about all this is that the public had no idea this project was happening until 2017, over 20 years after it closed. The CIA released all available documents to the public in 2017. Now, what was the purpose of researching remote viewing, as they like to call it? It was meant to be a way of gaining intelligence on other nations, specifically the Soviet Union. The psychics would attempt to see bases or lost objects or anything remotely secret, the goal being able to remotely gain intelligence on the Soviets. The method of obtaining this information varied almost every experiment, and many so-called successes have not been replicable, which puts many doubt into the accuracy of these claims. A fun thing they also tried to do was astral project someone to Mars. In this project, what the researchers did is give the subject a sealed envelope that the subject did not see before the interview or during the interview. Then during the interview, the researchers gave the subject coordinates to investigate. The subject described tall black figures, and at one coordinate, he describes a large black obelisk like the Washington Monument. The subject also describes pyramids in which the black figures are hibernating. He says they're an ancient people. They're dying. It's past their time or age. Then in the envelope, which was supposedly sealed throughout the experiment, was opened. It said Mars approximately 1 million BC. Supposedly, the visions this man was seeing were from Mars and around approximately 1 million BC. And at least that's what the researchers credit the visions to. The subject in question is Joseph McMoneagle, who is credited with finding a massive Soviet submarine, which existence was later confirmed via satellite imagery. McMoneagle is credited with finding the submarine as the U.S. was not aware of its existence prior to his visions. McMoneagle has written a book called The Stargate Chronicles detailing his experience in the project. Many believe the Stargate project was not a genuine project, but rather a counterintelligence measure meant to scare the KGB. That information about the project was deliberately leaked to scare and confuse the Soviets. Personally, I believe the US fully believed that they were investigating something worthwhile. And that those who believe that information was deliberately leaked just don't want to believe that $20 million in taxpayer dollars was wasted on a psychic investigation that resulted in nothing. That's all for this week, folks. I'll see you next week on Solved.
Cryptid Girl Summer!